Hi everyone. Today's practice will be a cool down and stretch starting in child's pose. I'm not using a props to support my hips, but of course if you like, bring a block under your sits bones or a pillow or a rolled up blanket between your hips and heels and find your way down to Balasana. So this could be knees in line with the hips, it could be knees a little bit wider for a wide knee child's pose. Either way, just letting the upper body really soften down and the heart start to melt down between the arms. Either letting your head come to rest fully on your mat, or again, if you have one, grab a prop, or you can also stack up your fists and rest your forehead on your fists. Taking a moment just to notice the spaces where your tissues are connected to your mat and imagining softness in those spaces. And then bringing your awareness to your breath and allowing a little more softness in your breath. Beginning to gently activate the head, activate the arms, so you can connect your palms back to your mat. Lift yourself up toward a tabletop position. If you came to a wide knee child's pose, bring your knees back in line with your hips. And then keeping your palms connected to your mat, imagine you're going to draw those hips back toward your heels like you're reaching for a child's pose, but you're going to bring your hips over toward your left heel. Rock across your heels at the bottom, hips over right heel. Lift your way back up toward tabletop. Circle a few times this direction. Next time you come to the top, tabletop, find a little pause and move the opposite way. Hips drawing toward right heel, rock across at the bottom and lift. And lift your way all the way back up toward your tabletop. And then moving into a thread the needle stretch, we'll take the left hand, palm face up under the sternum. We'll slide that hand under left arm, coming all the way down until your shoulder and temple rest on your mat. This hand feels good where it landed. It can stay here, or you can walk it out toward the top of your mat, or you can lift that hand up onto the low back, rest the back of the hand or the forearm at the low back, and then maybe imagining opening yourself, twisting a little further toward the ceiling. And if you're in a bind or extended, go ahead and find a breath to bring that right hand all the way back around under the shoulder. We'll activate that palm, press into that palm, slide your left hand out, bring that palm back down. We're back in tabletop. Rock the hips back toward your heels, off to one side. Go a couple times that direction. Lift your way back up, a couple times opposite direction. Lift your way back up. Left hand grounds, left palm face up under the sternum. Slide that hand out, right shoulder, temple, find your mat. Choose your variation for your left arm, staying where it is, walking toward the top of your mat, or a bind. Bringing that left hand back around under the shoulder, activating the palm, pressing up, connecting that right palm. Let both hips sink all the way back to heels, child's pose. And then begin to just gently walk your hands over toward the right side of your mat. When you get there, picking up your left wrist, crossing it across the right, reaching a little further out to the side, find a little more stretch on the left. Lifting just enough that you can walk all the way back through center. And then over to the left, stretch on the right, melt and soften over the left thigh. lifting up just a little, starting to walk your way back through center, activating the palms, lifting your way back up toward tabletop. Slide your hands out a little forward of your shoulders. Let your hips come forward a little bit. Slide your right knee forward toward your right wrist. Rotate your right foot out to the left side. We're moving toward single leg pigeon or single leg pigeon prep. Remembering that in this pose, our right shin is going to come parallel to the top of our mat, and the sole of our right foot is going to come parallel to the long edge of our mat. Starting to walk your left leg back, sink your hips down. Most of us won't get very far without some discomfort in the hip, rocking over to one side, or something else kind of funky happening. So if you have props at home, feel free to grab a block, a rolled up blanket, or pillow to support your right glute. Or you can come into the variation that we often see in classes and videos, which would be to take these right toes and point them back toward the front of the left hip, which for most of us is going to allow us to get a little closer to the floor. So either straight leg, prop up your hip, or let that leg come back toward the front of your left hip. And then we're going to spend a few moments extended. So opening through the heart, lifting through the crown of the head, finding that nice extension in the low back. Fingertips could be resting on your legs or just in front of your leg. And then we'll find a couple breaths melting down. So really, really slow movement as you start to walk your hands away, letting your belly melt down toward your right shin. And you can stack your fists here, rest forehead on fists. You can bring arms, hands, forehead down onto your mat. Starting a slow lift back up, coming back onto the palms if we're not there already. Walking the hands in toward the body. And now if you have props, scoot them out of the way so you can allow this right hip to come over to the side and rest all the way down on your mat. We'll connect both hands in front of the right leg so we can slide that right leg back. Find your way back to your tabletop. And then move through a few of those circular movements toward child's pose each direction. Find your way back to your tabletop. Step your hands out just a little further. Slide left knee toward wrist. Bring that foot out toward the edge of your mat. If possible, we're going to bring that leg, lower leg is parallel to the front of our mat. Sole of the foot parallel to the long edge. And we start to sink down. Again, remembering with this alignment, most of us find a stretch pretty quickly. So option to prop up that left glute, or if you prefer to do this pose instead, you can tuck those hips back toward the front. Tuck those toes back toward, you can tuck those toes back toward the front of your right hip. So find your version, single leg, king pigeon, pigeon prep here, finding a place to rest the hands on your leg or in front of your leg. Finding a nice long spine, open heart. And then beginning a softening down, moving really slowly. We allow those hands to start to walk away. You can stack up your fists, bringing your forehead onto your fists, or if there's another variation that you like here, maybe you continue to draw those hands forward, forehead rests on your mat. Beginning a slow release, eventually stepping back up onto the palms so we can walk hands back in toward the left leg. If we have props under that hip, we'll scoot them out of the way so we can let those hips fall over to the left. Activating the hands, slide that left leg back. Find your tabletop. Circle the hips back a few times. And then letting yourself come all the way back to child's pose. Hips to heels, fingertips reaching. Slow rolling up toward kneeling, sliding the hands into the body, lifting the torso over the hips. Send your hips over to one side so you can send your feet opposite. Slide your legs out in front of you. Scoot yourself forward so your tailbone is about the center of your mat. Slow roll your way down onto your back. Bring both bent knees into the belly. Rock or roll on the spine or draw some knee circles. Bringing both soles of the feet down to the mat, moving toward Shavasana. And moving toward a nice relaxed posture, finding whatever feels good, feels juicy, feels nurturing for you in the moment. And then relaxing and letting everything go. I would invite you to pause the video here, to place as much emphasis as you would like today on your final relaxation. Activating the fingers, activating the toes, circling the wrists, circling the ankles, turning the head side to side. Zipping the legs together, reaching toes long on your mat. Sending the arms overhead, full body stretch. Bringing bent knees into the belly, bringing the hands to the knees. Allowing those knees to draw you over to one side, bringing one arm up to cradle the head as you find fetal position. Using the support of your opposite arm, beginning to slow press your way up, moving toward a seat. Your awareness to the connection between your sits bones and your mat, finding a shoulder shrug up, back, down, finding length from the crown of the head. Noticing how you feel at the end of your yoga practice. Inhaling, sweeping the hands overhead. Exhaling, drawing the hands to heart center. Hummy hum, to me tum. Recognize that the other person is you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Hummy hum, to me tum. Thanks for practicing with me.